Have you subscribed yet? You probably haven't subscribed yet. Or click the notification for more videos in the future to know whether I've uploaded something. Now, if you haven't done this, there will be no Christmas presents for you. No Christmas presents, no Easter bunny. The tooth fairy won't come. And the tooth fairy is going to be a very handy thing for you to have in your life, especially after I get done with you.
Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about why you might want to change up the rep ranges or change up the weights from time to time. Now, I make lots of videos like this, but this is another thing that has occurred to me, and it's kind of a fun way to play with your training. Honestly, it makes training a little bit more fun and not always the same, right? Because sometimes when you're doing a certain movement, there's a lot of repetition to it, literally and metaphorically. And sometimes when you notice that when you use different weights or different intensities, that the way you perform the rep can change, and therefore you can get different results, or you could mess around and start to hit muscles that you couldn't hit before, or get a burn in a different area. Sometimes it makes it more interesting. So I showed you this before. When I do heavy dumbbell curls or heavy barbell curls, I'll keep the elbows back, keep the stress off that bicep tendon a bit, but at the same time, keep that tension just purely on the biceps, take the shoulders out altogether. But that doesn't mean that there cannot be any benefit whatsoever to doing super lightweight and bringing the elbows forward a little bit and doing slow repetitions or moving the arms out a little bit or whatever. Like, you may notice that just by making certain tweaks outwards or just bringing the elbows forward a bit, you actually squeeze a different part of the bicep, meaning you hit one head more than the other. Bicep means two heads, right? Mixing up the rep ranges not only gives you the opportunity to hit different muscle fibers, but sometimes it also gives you the opportunity to play with techniques that might be dangerous and or not effective with super heavyweight, because sometimes different parts of your body become the weak link. Case in point, sometimes the joint becomes the issue, right? Such as flaring the elbows during bench press. Some people flare the elbows during bench press and they tear a pec because they're doing heavy weight. It's just not a safe technique to do with heavy weight. Whereas if you're using lighter weights, say sets of 30, 40, 50 reps, you can get away with that because you're not risking so much stress on the tendons because the intensity is just lower. So this is something important to remember, that when you're using different intensities of weight, your technique may have to change. So using just sheer powerlifting technique or Olympic lifting technique or whatever, during your heavy lifts, that might be valid, but sometimes you're shortchanging yourself in some results because you're not playing around with the angles, playing around with the techniques when you're using lighter weights. And this is where you can sometimes hit that hard to get area, or that area that's really stubborn, where it just does not respond no matter what you do with the heavy weights and the proper form. But sometimes just by changing your elbow position or changing your wrist position or externally rotating or internally rotating, sometimes you can actually hit that area that you just couldn't hit because now you're using lighter weights, so you don't have to worry about the risk of injury to the joints as much, but at the same time you're starting to hit this part of the muscle that just wasn't getting challenged before. I've been playing around with just 20-pound dumbbells or 25-pound dumbbells, just doing super slow up at the top and down, doing sets of 30, 40 reps, but just bringing those elbows forward and sometimes squeezing at the top like this. And I'm actually enjoying it. It's just fun because I find bicep training kind of boring. Sometimes when you can play around with the exercise and get that extra burn, it makes it really rewarding to train because you're getting a pump and you're actually feeling like you're doing something. And then when you go back into the heavy training and say the solid sort of foundation technique, it feels like you're hitting different areas. You're actually getting everything. So you get that synergistic effect, just like you do with different rep ranges. You may have seen people do this with sissy squats and stuff like that in the gym, right? Have you ever heard of a sissy squat where people, they hook up into the machine and they just sit back and then come up, and it's almost like a leg extension with body weight? That I find is really hard on my knees, but some people can do this, but it would be stupid to do with 500 pounds on your back. But that doesn't mean that it is an ineffective exercise. It can be very effective, but you have to take into account that some exercises lend themselves to different intensities of weight. Doing super heavy weight on French curl, for instance, or skull crushers, right? If you're doing like sets of 2 reps and just straining your ass off, you're going to get elbow problems. But if you're doing 15, 20, 30 reps, you can get a very effective workout for your triceps. But it's just not one of those exercises that's made for super heavy weight, right? You're not supposed to be doing 1 rep maxes with your skull crusher, right? I mean, some guys can get away with it, but most people can't. So it's the same thing with your compounds. Sometimes your technique and your compounds can be adjusted depending on how much weight you're using and how many reps you are getting. So yeah, Play around with this, have some fun, get a little creative with the lighter weights. Don't do anything stupid with heavier weights, but with the lighter weights, you can sometimes just change things up and get some extra results. I hope this helps you in your training. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you need to get hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. Mountain. Man, it's scary up here. I'm not scared though. It just would be scary if you guys were up here. One of you was up here, you'd probably be scared. It's kind of dark, a little dark. I mean, I've got the camera settings on so you can see me, but it's a little dark up here right now. It's kind of typical Sasquatch time. Any Sasquatches up here? Any fur balls need an ass kicking? Eh? No? See, not responding. Scared. Just scared. They're just not ready. They're just not ready. They know that I've been training. I've been training for this moment my whole life.